Hello and welcome to my booktube channel, Jack in the Book Stack, where I talk about a wide variety of book genres and the bookish lifestyle. In today's video, I am reading nautical books on a Caribbean cruise. I spent 9 days aboard a cruise ship with my boyfriend and some friends, and it was a fantastic time. Let's jump to that trip right now, and then I will come back and tell you about the books that I read. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Oh, let me get by the way.
You guys. Did you? How did you not notice as soon as you opened the door?
I only saw her.
Oh, God. Son.
Nice shirt.
So all four of the guys have these shirts, I'm thinking right now.
Why would you think that?
Thomas.
I see you out front. I see you.
You see me?
Nice shirt, man.
Nice shirt, brother. Nice shirt.
We all get the same.
I think we all.
Look at the rest of them.
That's just weird.
That was such an adventure. Unfortunately, I brought home a souvenir I never wanted because I'm sick. I don't know what it is. I'm a very experienced traveler, but whenever my sleep schedule is disrupted, it's like my immune system gives up on fighting all the germs that I encounter and I get sick. And it's just one of those unfortunate side effects of travel that seems to happen very frequently to me. So I'm all mucusy, like a cold or a sinus infection or something. Not a good time. But what was a good time was all the reading that I did on this trip. And if you love themed reading vlogs, then this is the booktube channel for you. Especially if I can pair themed reading vlogs with travel. That is like my favorite video to make. So I wanted to quickly mention some other ones I've done so you can check them out. I will link them down below so you can watch them next. Firstly was Greece, where I read Greek mythology books on my trip in Greece. This was the most recent trip I took with my boyfriend, and it was so much fun reading these historical retellings of Greek mythology while in the sites. It adds so much to the trip. There was that one, and then I also did a really fun one reading Mexican horror and thriller books while going to Tulum, Mexico. It was my boyfriend's 40th birthday, so I took him on this trip to celebrate, and that one was also really, really cool, talking about like the weather and the food and the sights, and just, there was one book I read that was like in the exact area I was, the Yucatan Peninsula, and that was so very, very neat. I have another one where I went to Napa Valley and I read Vineyard Murder Mysteries. Incredible! I learned so much about winemaking from these books that I could then take on my trips to the different wineries, and that was fun, and also the descriptions of the flavors and everything, that was neat. So I do have some awesome travel vlogs similar to this one, where I themed my reads, and like I said, one of my favorite types of videos to make. The first book that you saw me read was Red Seas Under Red Skies, which is book 2 in the Gentleman Bastards series by Scott Lynch. And I picked this one up on audio, and I started it at the airport. So from Phoenix to Miami, this is what I was listening to. Unfortunately, this was the travel day from hell, because never do this, but we had the cruise line book our airfare because it was buy one, get one free. Not worth it. Because they had us connect through Houston, and in Houston they had to shut down the whole airport because lightning struck the runway. So the whole airport was closed for like 4 hours, and then everything was backed up. It was a nightmare. My layover that was supposed to be like 2 or 3 hours ended up being like 10 hours, and I think that's where the whole sickness started because I was exhausted. We didn't get into Miami like to our hotel until 4 a.m. It was a nightmare. Anyways, I digress. So I started listening to Red Seas Under Red Skies during the travel, and I had the audiobook, but I found that I needed to keep my eyes busy because I was like listening on the plane, but I'm like doo-doo-doo. So I needed it. So in the Houston airport, I tried to download it to my Kindle, like tried to check it out through Libby, but I couldn't connect my Kindle to the airport Wi-Fi, so I downloaded it to my iPad. So largely that's what I was doing, is like immersive reading this book. I absolutely love the characters in this series. That is what is so special about this series by Scott Lynch, is the characters, their intelligence, their banter, the relationship between our two main characters, Locke and Jean, is just unparalleled. I love that. I love platonic friendships in books. So that I really like. This also has a plot that I'm very interested in. It's one of my favorite things, which is a heist plot. So our characters are trying to do this heist, but things are happening, you know, they're running into some barriers that make it very complex. I'm so interested to see how they find their way out of this, and I have not finished the book yet. I started it, I'm about 50% of the way into it. The thing that I was struggling with is at the 50% mark, I can see how our characters are becoming reluctant pirates and how they're gonna go out to sea. But at 50%, they're not out to sea yet. And that is not what I wanted to read on this cruise, because it was not giving me nautical vibes. I could see how the nautical vibes are coming, but not what I wanted to read on the trip. So I put this down after that travel day from hell. Next, you saw me pick up A Ship of Bones and Teeth on my Kindle. I started this poolside on the cruise ship when we were our day at sea. And I picked this up because it was marketed as a Little Mermaid Pirates of the Caribbean spicy book, which it was. And I enjoyed that aspect. This follows Marin, and it is about 10 years after the events of The Little Mermaid. So she went off, married Prince Eric, so now she's princess, but he is not the guy she thought he was. And I mean, surprise, surprise, right? I mean, this guy falls in love with this woman that like can't speak or communicate with him at all. What kind of guy is that? Turns out when she starts speaking again, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like a woman that has a mind of her own. So he's very controlling. He hits her. He condescends to her. He's all these horrible, horrible things. Prince Eric is horrible. And then you go to the Pirates of the Caribbean influence, which is their ship runs into like a pirate ship, and then there's this other group of pirates that are like the undead. So that's really how you get the Pirates of the Caribbean. And then it's a dark romance with this captain. There was another element thrown into this book, as if Little Mermaid and Pirates of the Caribbean wasn't enough. There was a third element, which I don't want to spoil for you, but it made it too comical to me. Like, we're trying to do too much. This is so ridiculous, and it kind of lost momentum for me. And also, like, nothing was really happening. It was kind of boring. It all takes place, like, on the ocean, so there were nautical vibes, but it didn't, like, envelope me in this nautical setting that I wanted, even though we were there. But I think the real kicker was the chemistry between Marin, our mermaid turned human, and the dark pirate captain that she can't help but be attracted to. Their chemistry, horrible, totally unbelievable. And here's the thing, I love the concept of dark romance. I love it. But it's really hard for me to find one that I enjoy, and it's kind of for this reason. Like, Marin's attracted to him, but you can't see why. I don't understand. Like, he's giving her all the red flags, like, hey, I'm gonna hurt you, I'm gonna use you, I'll probably unalive you, and she's like, oh, there's something about him, I just feel like I need to trust him and tell him my deep dark secret that I used to be a mermaid. And I'm like, why? Why? And then why are you surprised when he wants to, like, use this against you? I just did not buy the chemistry, and I need to buy the chemistry in a dark romance, any kind of romance. So this one was very, very difficult to read. It was kind of fun to like check out and read it a little bit, but it was just very repetitive, nothing much happening. So I didn't enjoy it all that much. There's something about travel that really ignites my other passion of language learning. I found that Pimsleur has various volumes of language learning audiobooks that I can check out on Libby. I already kind of listened to the last few chapters of like the first Spanish book that I could find, and I'm on the second one, and I loved listening to this on the cruise ship. Like, in some of my downtime, I would just listen to a chapter, which is like 20 or 30 minutes, and it's like Spanish and English phrases that you listen to and repeat back, and there's like staged conversations that you can listen to. Fantastic listening and speaking practice. Again, I was very motivated because when I'm in some of these stops and it's difficult to communicate with people, it really makes me want to know more languages so I can communicate. So I listened to a couple chapters of that, and I did get to practice my Spanish in like Puerto Rico, and actually just like around the airport too. I like sat next to this guy on the plane who didn't really speak English that well, so I got to practice with him, and that was so much fun. I also checked out Life of Pi, which was available on Kindle Unlimited. This is one that I've tried to read before, but I didn't get that far in, so this was my second attempt because I think it's about a guy, like a young man or a boy who's stranded at sea with a tiger. And I thought that would have really cool nautical vibes. At 20% though, I did decide to DNF this book. Second time, I don't think I'm going to try again. It's at 20%, it's just about this kid's life growing up with a father who's a zookeeper, and he spends time in the zoo, and it just felt self-indulgent and boring, and there was no nautical vibes. There was nothing about this that hooked me, that intrigued me. I just didn't care. And I also don't love zoos all that much. Like, as I get older, I'm not as into them, and just like animal tourism is something I'm kind of cautious of. So this was not my thing. Even though I didn't show it, I did spend some time with an audiobook for The Republic of Pirates. This is one I picked up because it is about the actual Pirates of the Caribbean. This is a nonfiction. And I had the audiobook, but I don't think that format works for me for this book. It was very dry. It felt like somebody was just rambling off facts and events to me, like a history lecture. Very dry. There wasn't anything to connect to. I like nonfiction that almost has a little bit of a plot. Maybe some dialogue. Something that reads a little bit more like fiction that can like draw you in. I think this will be okay if I read it physically. It's just the audiobook was not working for me. And I think physically, like if there's like a paragraph or a section I don't care about, I can like skip down a little bit. So I'm still going to give this one a shot because the concept or like the content is very interesting. The true and surprising story of the Caribbean pirates and the man who brought them down. I think this will be really cool. So I'm disappointed that I didn't have this physical copy because this could have been actually really cool on the ship. So those are the nautical books that I read on my 9-day Caribbean cruise. I didn't read as much as I thought I would, and there were a couple factors. Like one, there just wasn't a lot of downtime. There was, you're always going off to shore excursions or meeting up with people, or if you've ever been on a cruise, like you're waiting in line for something. So there was a lot of that, and then I felt like the shore excursions, a lot of them were very like energy intensive. Like there was the one that we did with the monkeys and the off-roading, like the buggies or ATV things, and there was like this waterfall. There was like an hour-long hike, like there and back. It was like an hour in like water shoes, carrying that stupid helmet that you have to take and a life vest. And it was so humid. Oh my gosh. Some locals were saying that it was so much hotter and more humid for May. Like it was more weather they expect in like July and August. So they were really concerned about hurricane season because the heat is starting so early. So lots of like walking around in that stupid hike that just zapped my energy. I needed like 2 or 3 days of recovery. I was just tired. I was worn out, and then obviously I got sick. So I actually didn't feel like reading all that much. And I'm still kind of in that mindset. Like I just want to be a couch potato and like zone out because I'm having a tough time getting back into the swing of things. It was really funny though, because the cruise ship can hold like a little over 2,000 people, and so many people had books or Kindles that they were reading, and I was such a little creeper, like trying to see the cover of what everybody was reading. That was really fun. A lot of Colleen Hoover was out there, but it was so fun to be creepy and like check on what everyone was reading. And then the onboard library was kind of neat. I wonder if that's just like a bunch of books that people leave on board the ship, because there were some really interesting titles, some like newer releases and things that I see on BookTube all the time. So it was really cool that there was an onboard library where you could go and check out books. Overall, a very solid vacation. So this was a great time reading these nautical books on the cruise ship. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting me share my vacation with you. I'll see you in the next video.